Hey y'all, it's Katie Vine. I was not gonna make this video, but I was just sitting here looking through some books at the library on my phone and I'm thinking about checking out soon. And it got me thinking about because I was looking at just because we're in such a weird time, trying to get some more talking points about, like racism and bias and things of that nature because it's like I'm just trying to like put things into perspective of like just trying to see the bigger picture of some of the things that I've been experiencing in just the state of the United States at this point. But I wanted to just briefly talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I just have chosen not to because it's been kind of difficult to go through it. But this probably won't take too long. But I know that I've talked about my narcissistic mother before, and she can feel however she wants to feel. She can believe that she did her best and all this other bullshit. But the truth of the matter is that my mom never really wanted me to be happy. And this is why she has slandered me all of my life. She always wanted people to look at me like I was stupid, like I was just a bad kid, that I just could not get my shit together, but she never wanted to take accountability for her role in that. And you know, I've forgiven myself for all the things that I have been through. And I'm not excusing my mother's behavior at all. I'm not excusing it. I don't make excuses for narcissists because narcissistic people know exactly what they're doing. And a lot of narcissistic people, they could be going to therapy to get help, but they choose not to. Um, I remember like right before I got pregnant with my daughter, my mom had surgery, and I was telling her like, you know, it was right around time she had surgery, and I was telling her that she should go to therapy. And she was like, I don't need therapy. There's nothing wrong with me. She really truly believes that there's nothing wrong with her. But it got me thinking about like, I don't know a lot about my family history because there's a lot of secrets that run within my family. That's another thing you should realize too if you're a part of a narcissistic family. Like, they keep a lot of secrets. They don't say a lot of stuff on purpose so that you they don't people don't talk about the family secrets because they're embarrassed by them. But I just want to briefly talk about my grandmother and what I now understand and how we got to this point. So, not my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother's mom was born in 1929 in Albany, Georgia. 1929 in Albany, Georgia. Okay. And she didn't like white people. White people made her uncomfortable, and rightfully so. When you think about it, coming from Albany, Georgia in 1929, racism was a different flavor back then. And she probably experienced things that, to me, I don't even think, to me, I would say they're unimaginable in a way. Because it's like I've experienced racism, but I don't think I experienced racism the way that she experienced it. As well as I don't believe I've experienced racism the way that my mother experienced racism. Because we'll get to that in just a second. But my grandmother moved up north to Detroit. I'm not even sure around what time. It had to be around either the 40s or the 50s, probably early 50s, I'm going to assume, because she was a teacher up here for some time. Um, my grandmother, sorry, my grandmother was a college graduate. She had a teaching degree. Um, I'm a third generation. Oh, and that is not the norm for black people either. I want to make that very clear. A lot of black people didn't have access to education or didn't, a lot of them went to work. So the fact that my grandmother was able to obtain her education and she had a degree, which I didn't actually really know that until I think after she died, which she passed away in 2021. Um, she like I did not know she was a college graduate. So it's like I said, like I'm a third generation college graduate. That's not always likely, especially coming from, people of color, like, a black family. A lot of people didn't have the opportunity to go to school. That just wasn't it. My mother is obviously a college graduate as well. But we'll get to her in a second. But my grandmother was a teacher, and she taught in Detroit for some time, and then she got with my grandfather, and then she had her children, and she never worked again or anything like that after that. And I realized, like, now that had to have been hard for her. Like, she lost a lot of her autonomy after getting married. Like, times were just really different back then. Like, she was dealing with racism in the South, and then she had to deal with a different type of racism in the North. They lived on the east side of Detroit, which is still very segregated. The east side is not the best part of Detroit. If you've ever been there, then you know. Um, my grandmother, I don't know what her family was like, but they were born in the 1800s. I don't know how old they were. I'm not quite sure, but they had to deal with racism on a different level as well. And it's like that family trauma really does, it comes down. And you have to one thing I'm coming to the understanding of is, like, psychologically, for my family, and probably for a lot of black families and other families of color, is that when you are in a system that tells you that you are less than, that you are nothing, you tend to try to protect, or what you perceive as protection, uh you try to protect your children from trying to go too far, because you feel like they either are going to be disappointed, or you feel like they're not going to really get there, so they might as well just stay in their place because that's where you're supposed to be, where you believe that that's the only place you're ever going to be able to go. And I feel like when it comes down to mothers, narcissistic mothers, because at this point I can probably say that my grandmother may have had some narcissistic tendencies as well. um my aunt told me at one point that my grandparents never really told their kids that they loved them. And that makes me sad, because it's like, as a kid, I just feel like you need to hear that. I tell my baby I love her every single day. I let her know. I even told her, like, it's okay if you don't love me sometimes. I get that. But I always love you, and that's never going to change, because I need her to know that she always has me for her. I will always be there for her. And what I realize is that in the lineage, and at least the matriarchs of my family, that lineage, all of the women didn't have a lot of support from their mothers. I don't know, maybe I need to do a deeper dive in this, and then maybe somebody can put something in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are. But a lot of these women in my family, they just didn't support each other. And I do feel like if there's narcissistic tendencies through the bloodline, then there may be also a trend of mothers seeing something in their daughters that they didn't see in themselves, and being jealous of that. I can't speak for my grandmother and how she felt about my mother, because I don't know her personal feelings. I don't really know a lot about their relationship. I know that it was rocky over the years, but I don't know a lot. So I can't speak on it too much. But what I can say about me and my mother's relationship is that my mother, I don't think she liked me because I saw and understood too much. Narcissists do not like people who see through their schemes. Narcissists don't like people who understand the nuances behind the things that they're trying to hide. And as a very young child, I saw things and I was like, that's not right. Immediately, that's not right. I don't get that. I may have mentioned this before, but when my mother was married, her husband was a minister, and he had his own church and all of that. I remember one Sunday, like most Sundays before we went to church, he was often watching other, sermons on television. That was pretty normal in our house. And I didn't think nothing of it, because I was just like, oh, our whole lives are church. We visited other churches. He was friends with other pastors, and we would go and visit, them sometimes, and just listen to their sermons too. So it wasn't unusual for me to listen and hear other people's sermons. But one particular day, I was sitting and waiting for us to leave to go to church. I think he had already left, and it was just me, my mom, and my sister, and we were waiting, to go to join him at church. And I remember listening to the sermon, and I don't quite remember the scripture and all of that, but I do remember that when we got to church that day, my stepfather was preaching the same scripture, same sermon. Maybe not exactly word for word, but pretty much the same thing I had heard on TV. And later on that day, I pulled my mom aside and I'm like, hey, why 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 was he preaching the same thing that was on the TV this morning? And she looked me dead in my eyes. I couldn't have been no more than like 9, 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere around there. I couldn't have been no more than that old. And she's like, oh, he already had written that. It was just a coincidence. And see, this is the problem that I have with my mom now. Because my mom tries to play victim when it comes down to that relationship. And I'm not saying that she didn't suffer in certain ways in that relationship. But she was complicit in his lies. She was complicit. She knew what he was doing. She knew that he was crooked with money. Now, I know he kept secrets from her, but she knew certain things. And if she didn't know, she chose not to see it. There was a point in time, like we found out later on, after he had gotten or after they had separated and when we're in the process of divorcing, we found out that he had a cleaning business, but for 6 months he claimed he was going to work at said cleaning business, but was really going to his girlfriend's house. And which, when as I got older, I started to really contemplate that and be like, wait a minute, something's not adding up. My mom had to have known something else was going on, because you can't tell me that for 6 months a man who's claiming that he's working is going to his girlfriend's house and he's not bringing home any money. You mean to tell me for 6 months it never occurred to you to think like, ain't no money coming in this house? My mom paid a lot of those bills. I bet that's something she don't tell her family, that she ended up footing the bill for a lot of stuff. When we moved out of the house that we were renting, or that he was renting, I guess, uh, which he wasn't even paying the landlady for that either. Like, he never paid his bills. In the apartment complex that we went back to after, because we were living there for a few years, and I guess that's where my mom decided to take us back to initially. She had to do a whole bunch of stuff just to get us back in there, because her name was attached to his, and we had to abruptly move out of there because he wasn't paying the rent. So it was like, like he put us in jeopardy a lot with our housing situations, not paying things, cheating people out of money. And I'm like, and she stayed with him for so long. And then she would complain about him later on after they divorced, like, oh, he was a con artist. And it's like, but you were complicit. Okay. And I feel like my mom never wanted to take accountability for the fact that she agreed to those lies. She knew a lot of that stuff that he was doing was wrong, but she went along with it. And then she tried to use God as like, well, God told me to stay with him. No, the fuck he didn't. No, he didn't. God didn't tell you to stay with him. God probably told you not to marry him in the first place, but you did it anyways. I think my mom really wanted to be accepted by her mom, because I know that they had a rocky relationship. And here this comes, and this is the point of my mom that I want to make. My mom went through a lot growing up. She didn't have a mother that supported her, and therefore I guess she didn't really have a role model in how to support her daughter, even though I don't feel like that's an excuse. But what I do understand about narcissistic people is that they are just injured people. They're injured children. And I remember growing up, my mom would always tell me certain things like, you always were like this, or you like, well, you always kind of knew things, and you always kind of you were always kind of ahead. You were always this, you're always that. And it's just like I could tell that my mom may have felt uncomfortable with me being smart and observant and understanding things. When you are a narcissistic person and you're trying to hide things from people, when you want there to be an illusion and you have a child that breaks down the illusion of who you claim to be, you have to punish that child in the narcissistic mind. You have to punish that child. That's why you end up becoming the scapegoat. That's why you end up becoming the black sheep, because the narcissist does not need you blowing their cover. Okay. And when you come from a dysfunctional family, when you come from a dysfunctional lineage, which unfortunately I feel like for a lot of us, and this, I don't think that this is just black people, I think this is just a lot of us in general, because just looking back into history, for a lot of our cultures, all of our cultures, there's a lot there that needs to be unpacked. Like there's a lot there that needs to be unpacked. Some of us have lineages of drug addiction and alcoholism, uh history, a lot of abuse in a lot of our families, a lot. And we normalized these things over time. As people, we have normalized these things. And and I mean, all of that, all of the stuff that, our ancestors went through, the racism, slavery, just Jim Crow laws, like that racism affects everyone. I need everyone to understand that racism truly affects everyone in the long run. It really does. It may benefit some people, but it really affects everyone. It really does. And it affects the oppressors mostly because they don't get to learn. And now a lot of them oppressors are learning the hard way how expensive racism can truly be. But I digress. But I'm starting to just really understand, like, through my family bloodline and lineage, like, there is such a history of abuse. My mom was really hoping that I would continue that toxic cycle. She was really hoping that I would become a mother and I would hate my daughter because I hated myself, just like how she hates herself. She wanted me to become an unfit parent. She wanted me to become a welfare queen. She wanted me to be irresponsible and just start popping out a whole bunch of kids, and not being able to care for them or take care of myself, and not finish the things that I started. She wanted me to lose myself because she lost herself when she had children, even though she made the decision to have children with two people who were very clearly did not like her. They did not like her. Okay. They didn't even know her for real. And even my dad is probably the worst out of the two, in my opinion, because she knew him longer than she knew my sister's dad. And she still had a baby with him, and he still left her while she was pregnant with me. And she should have known that he did not fuck with her like that. He never did. So, it's like, I understand psychologically, like, my mom was always looking for love. She was always looking for acceptance. That's why she married the man that she married. That's why she always has gone above and beyond at her jobs. Why she would rarely ever take her sick time, to the point where there were so many, like, there was a point in time at my mom's job, she works for U of M, where she would not really take any of her sick leave, to the point where they had to come to her and say, hey, you have to take some days off. And she would be like, well, I don't really have anything to do. And I'm like, take your fucking sick leave. And you know what's crazy? She just hit her 20th year just a couple of years ago. And you know what those people gave her? A big 20th anniversary coin. No raise. No money. Nothing. They didn't give her anything. And I'm like, you spent 20 years in this place. And this is what you got for 20 years of service. What the fuck is this? And it's like, my mom has, like I said, she's always been looking to have this image about her of how, and it's like, but it's never benefited you. And she's always made me out to feel like I was just this terrible child that I just couldn't get it right. But it's like, I was looking for love too. I was looking and searching for love so much in my life because I just never understood. I felt so unlovable for so long because I was like, my mom doesn't really love me. My sister doesn't love me. My family doesn't call me or care about me. My dad's side of the family treats me like I remember, like I was separated from my dad for a long time because of him, obviously. And he could have been a part of my life if he really wanted to, but he chose not to. And I remember when I was graduating from high school and his sister came up to me at my graduation. Why she came, I have no idea. She didn't come with no money or nothing. Just came to my graduation and was like, how she introduced herself to me was, I am your father's sister, not my aunt. Not, I'm your aunt. I'm your father's sister. Both sides of my family treat me like I don't exist. And it's like, it's sad, but at the same time, what I do understand and realize is like, there's so much trauma in these families, in these bloodlines, in these lineages, that when there's a child that comes along, I don't know why it had to be me, but a child comes along and they break everything that has been wrong with that family lineage. And I just want to let y'all know, whoever's watching this, like, you are the generational curse breaker. I urge you to just take some time and just contemplate and look at how much your family did have to suffer. Like, just think of what you do know about your family, because there's a lot of stuff you probably don't know. It's a lot of stuff that these people don't want to tell you. They don't want you knowing what really went on during those times. Because some of them are embarrassed and some of them just want to, again, keep that good image of like, oh no, everything's perfect over here. So you may not find things out for many years, but for what information you do know, just, you have to understand, like, our families have always been broken. These are curses. People have cursed our bloodlines so that we wouldn't be able to prosper, so that we wouldn't be able to move forward. You're the black sheep of your family because you are not meant to continue to perpetuate these family curses. And this is why your family, which you would think that your family would be proud of you for breaking generational curses, but the reason why they attack you and the reason why they don't want you to do that is because they have to look at themselves and ask, why didn't I do what this child is doing to break the generational curses? They have to look at themselves and check themselves, and a lot of them don't want to have to do that. This is why they won't help you. This is why they pretend like you don't exist. They know that you're different. That's why they reject you. But I want you to understand something, that you are great. You are wonderful. I know it's hard because I don't know about y'all, but I oftentimes, especially when I'm in like meditation, I can feel my ancestors' pain. Like when I think about the things that some of my grandmother may have experienced, like I may not fully understand it because I didn't have to experience, but I can feel her pain. I can feel it. I can feel my foremothers, like I can feel their pain and the things that they had to go through, the suffering, the abuse. I know my mother was abused, and I'm not taking that away from her, but that did not give her the right to abuse me. That did not give her the right to lie on me. That did not give her the right to hide what she did to make me the villain in her story so that she could live a more peaceful life. But what happens when the black sheep of the family disappears from the family? They fucking fall apart. Why do they fall apart? Because they don't have anyone to fucking blame anymore. They don't have anyone to blame. How can you blame somebody that's not calling you, who's not bothering you? And that's the crazy thing about being the black sheep. When you decide to leave the family system, you're like, okay, well, since I'm the fucking problem here, I'm going to remove myself. And then what do those people do? They try to get you to come back. And it's like, but I was the problem. And the thing is that the reason why they want you to come back is because they want you to kill yourself trying to fix yourself to be perfect enough for them when you never will be. There is nothing. I felt like, I was like, me graduating college wasn't enough. Me getting a good job and getting promoted at my job wasn't enough. Those people never fucking cared. No matter what I did, no matter how successful I was, they never fucking cared. And it's like, well, what am I doing? What am I doing here? They don't want you to break those generational curses, because if you do, then everything that they said about you over the years, they're going to have to come clean. And they don't want to have to come clean about it. People are about to fucking eat crow. Okay? They're going to have to eat crow with the things that they said about you. And this is why 11:11 on the clock as I say that. They're going to have to eat crow, okay? They have no choice. They have to come clean with the things that they said. And this is why I keep telling y'all that some of these people are going to try to come back in your life and be like, oh, I always knew you'd make it. I always knew you'd be successful. No, you didn't. You wanted me to fail. You preyed on my downfall. Okay. And it's like, I empathize with the trauma that my family has been through, but I will not make excuses for the way that they have treated me. I will not make excuses for you. And I forgive you, but I will not come back to the family. And I feel like y'all should do the same. But I really need to get that out. So I'm really glad that I was able to talk about this. If y'all have any comments or questions, definitely put them in the chat. I would love to go deeper into like our family bloodlines and things of that nature. I would love to have conversations with y'all about that. So y'all put your comments and questions in the comment section. I will definitely look at them. It's your girl K Divine. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.